When he finished his 23-year NFL career, that's right, 23 years in the NFL. At the time, he had a few accolades under his belt. 44 years old in the Pro Bowl, the oldest Pro Bowler at the time. He was number 2 all-time for the Saints in scoring. I think he's now number 3. He's now a Saints Hall of Famer, one of the greatest kickers to ever wear the black and gold. He is John Carney.
What's up, guys? This is Mike Carney.
This is Toy Cook.
I'm Randy Mueller.
This is Quinn Early.
I'm Delvin Bro.
I'm Alex Molden.
I'm Jake Cup. And this is Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint.
The Life of a Saint.
Life of a Saint.
Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint. Whodat?
John, I know you were originally a soccer player and then made your way over to football. What age did that transition happen where you started to take football a little bit more seriously?
Sophomore year in high school. Went to Cardinal Newman High School down in West Palm Beach, Florida. We had a phenomenal football program that was founded and coached by Coach Sam Budnick, who is retired now, but owns all kinds of Florida State high school football records and wins and you name it. Just an amazing coach. And it was really at our school at the time, Cardinal Newman, kind of a rite of passage for the males to go out for the football team and be a part of a very successful program, the Crusader program. So I went out my sophomore year thinking I was a wide receiver. And after sitting on the bench for a long enough period of time, figured I should plan on doing something else to get on the field. And so the guys that were kicking and punting were football guys without soccer backgrounds. And so I decided maybe if I could learn how to kick a football like a soccer ball, I could get myself off this bench and get onto the field. And so started working on that craft and ended up kicking and punting for the JV team my sophomore year, and then varsity my junior and senior year. The first camp I went to, this will show you how old I am, was a Garo Upremium soccer and kicking camp in Fort Lauderdale.
I read as a kid that you originally were from Hartford, moved down to Florida. What prompted that move for you and your family?
So my father worked for Pratt & Whitney Aircraft, division of United Technologies. They have a big plant based there in Hartford, Connecticut. They have another plant down in Palm Beach County, Florida. And so in 77, they moved a ton of employees down to that location. And my father was part of that move. And so the Carney family moved down to Florida.
So you spend a bunch of years in Florida, eventually college years come around, and you head up to Notre Dame, which obviously is a big shift in weather, if nothing else. Other than the obvious of playing for Notre Dame, what went into that decision?
Well, back to that high school, we had an All-American running back by the name of Alonzo Jefferson, who attracted every scout across the country, from UCLA, USC, you name it, Ohio State, Michigan, and Notre Dame. And he ended up choosing Notre Dame, and they were very excited to get him, obviously. And our head coach, again, Sam Budnick, kind of pointed my direction when the coaches were coming in to see Alonzo. Said, "Hey, we got this kicker who's pretty good. You might want to take a look at him too." So ended up going to Notre Dame on Alonzo Jefferson's coattails as a preferred walk-on.
What are your fondest memories while you were in Notre Dame?
I love that school. I have 2 kids there now. My son's a junior. He's a quarterback on the team. My daughter's a sophomore. And it's just a very special place. Obviously, the education is top-notch. And we've in spirituality into day life on campus is very important to many of us. tradition of the football team and program, is arguably one of the best in the country. And so all those things wrapped up into one. Met some phenomenal people there. I'm still friends with classmates and teammates. And so just a very special time and a very special place in college academics and college football.
So I know you went undrafted. Eventually you get that phone call from Cincinnati. What was that like, getting that call that you were finally taking that first step toward your dreams of playing in the NFL?
Well, I was really a camp leg or insurance policy with a few other kickers. The kicker from Penn State and I were there just as an insurance policy for Jim Breach, but he was kicking fine, and they weren't willing or ready to make a change at that point. So it was my first taste of the NFL. I was there for a cup of coffee. They released me before preseason began, so we just really had an off season and a training camp with them. But it was eye-opening to me that, okay, this is now more than just a game. This is a business. I have to be stronger. I have to be more consistent. I have to find or develop better routines for training and better routines for maintaining focus during practice or during a scrimmage. And so it was a very educational experience for me that I needed to go back to the lab and get to work and improve my game mentally and physically if I was going to make it in this league.
Now, throughout the journey, I know a lot of people kind of pour into you and are a part of the success that you ultimately have. Who was if you had to pick, who was the most important cog in that wheel?
Good question. I don't know, to be honest with you. So,
That's fair.
I had faith that God had a plan for my life and that He had given me ability, and I needed to refine and work and train that ability to the best, of my capabilities. And at first, I think at some time when I was at Notre Dame, someone said, "Hey, this kid might have a chance to play on Sundays," and that kind of stuck in my mind. And then when I graduated, I was like, "Okay, well, let's give this a shot." I've been kicking in this game for 7 years, 3 in high school and 4 in college, so let's give this a shot. I didn't realize it would take over 3 years to get that opportunity to stick around for an entire season as the starting kicker on an NFL team. But the journey became a challenge to me. And, personally, I wanted to prove it to myself that I could hang with the big boys. And certainly the long road attracted some critics, and the critics were very motivational for me to prove them wrong. And so that was good fuel for my fire to keep pushing forward and keep my eyes on the prize. And eventually San Diego gave me the shot to stick around during a regular season and see if I could pull it off.
Now, before you stick in the NFL, you're going to go through some things. What was the toughest thing you had to overcome in that process of ultimately making it where you were able to stick in the NFL?
Well, it's really uncomfortable to spend a lot of time unemployed or working part-time jobs because you need time to train, and most smart employers aren't going to hire a free agent professional player who's trying to make an NFL and is going to take off as soon as he gets his chance. So you work part-time jobs and you're in and out of training camps, in and out of workouts. I left a few workouts disappointed or with the realization that I had more work to do. And then I left workouts, later on feeling, hey, I'm getting closer to winning these workouts, and I'm competing now with some veteran players who are at the end of their career, and they're coming into the same workouts that I'm in, and I feel like I'm holding my own. And maybe doing some things better than they are doing, and I just need to tighten it up a little bit more and be a little bit more consistent and be patient, because, as you know, every NFL team only carries one kicker, one punter, one long snapper, so we can't make the squad as a third stringer or second stringer and work into a starting position. We have to make it as the starter. Right. And for specialists, that road sometimes can be a little bit longer than other positions, because there's only 32 jobs in the league that have a K next to the name. So it's tight. It's tight to get in. But eventually, if you're doing the right stuff at the right time and you get that phone call and you can prove it to them in person, they'll give you a shot.
Considering all the adversity that you faced and how long the process took for you to actually get to the point where you were a starter, a lot of guys, I think, would have just realized this just isn't working out and gone in a different direction. You showed a lot of resiliency, obviously. Where does that come from? Where does that resiliency come from?
I'm a stubborn Irishman. That's about all I can say. My father taught me a lot, and one of them was work ethic and perseverance. And I really felt I'd put a lot of work and effort towards this goal, and I was going to push it as far as I could push it until someone in the NFL said, "Hey, son, you should really start another career because you just don't have what it takes to be an NFL kicker." And so until someone told me that, I was going to push it and do my best to improve and learn the small things, have attention to detail, pay attention to the kickers that were successful in the NFL. What are they doing? What are they doing that I'm not doing? What do I need to learn from them? And so during workouts, during training camps, during preseason games, I really, really focus and study what these veterans were doing and trying to learn everything I could from them to see what in reality a pro does to remain a pro. And so it was a great learning experience, a great learning curve, and I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the training. I enjoyed the grind, and I still do. I'm here right now. We have about 12 NFL hopefuls training with me right now in my gym here in California, Carney Training Facility. Some of them are fresh out of college, getting ready for their first pro day or NFL combine. And some have graduated a couple of years ago, and they're where I was, after my graduation. They're grinding away and improving and refining their game, so when they have their opportunity, they can shine.
So the first time you played for San Diego didn't really work so well, but you get a second chance. What was it about that second chance that ultimately allowed you to stick around in the NFL and have a go at it?
Well, I think, after 2.5, 3 years of, again, going through the learning curve, improving my strength and conditioning, improving my routines, my preparation routines and my performance routines, I found myself out here with a legitimate opportunity. And Fawd Revez, who had just come out of the Miami Dolphins, had been there for, I think, 3 years, who was a very quality kicker, but had some injury issues down in Miami. He was my competitor here in San Diego, and so I battled him. And again, I learned from him because he had been in the league for several years. We had a great competition. They actually went with him when the season began, and he just never seemed to get on track here. And then they swapped me in the game and him out week 5 of the regular season. And then Fawd ended up in Minnesota and did really well in Minnesota for several years. And ironically, I think it was 3 years later, we both ended up in the Pro Bowl together against each other. He represented NFC and the Vikings, and I was representing the AFC and the Chargers. It was really ironic. We both ended up at the Pro Bowl with each other several years after competing against each other.
11 years with the San Diego Chargers. I'm going to have to assume that the Super Bowl is the highlight of those 11 years.
Yes, that would have been the pinnacle. Was a Cinderella story, but we just had a great mix of veterans and young talent. A great coaching staff with Bobby Ross and his staff. A great general manager, Bobby Beathard, and we stayed healthy, which is a big component of making a good run for the season and in the playoffs. And it was just a real special time for the team, the franchise, and the city. Unfortunately, we couldn't close it out with the victory over the 49ers. They came loaded with talent and experience, and we put up a good fight. We actually scored more points than anybody scored against them that year, but we just couldn't stop their offense. They were just too strong.
So after those 11 years in San Diego, what made you choose New Orleans as your next destination?
Well, they kind of chose me. I had a little Mickey Mouse game with the management of the Chargers, which was a surprise to me, but you'll find this ironic. The new general manager that came in that year was named John Butler from the Buffalo Bills.
Right, yeah. I remember that there was a guy by that name with Buffalo, yeah.
And the first time I met John Butler in the hallways of the Charger facility, I said, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Butler. Welcome to the Chargers." And he said, "I've met you before." And I said, "Oh." He said, "Yeah, I met you after the game in Buffalo when you kicked the – no, I met you here in San Diego a couple years ago when you kicked the game winner against my Bills." And I said, "Well, I hope you don't hold that against me." And, of course, he did. So he gave me my walking papers. My contract was up, and I was trying to negotiate a new contract with him, and he wasn't having it. So he sent me on my way. Although he kind of went through a charade of looking like he was negotiating a contract, but just putting stuff down on paper that no player would ever sign. So I missed a little bit of an opportunity to explore free agency. I missed that window. So I spent the off season and summertime as a free agent, and New Orleans called me up during training camp and said, "You're down here to play for the Saints." And I said, "That sounds pretty good to me. Let's go."
So I can't talk to John Carney without at least mentioning the River City Relay. Knowing what the kicker or the punter mentality is of you can't get too high on your good stuff, you can't get too low on your bad stuff. Was that the mentality you had after that extra point attempt, or was it a little deeper than that, or was it a little tougher to get past?
That was a number of things. I would say, as far as my playing career was concerned, that was the lowest point in my playing career. Certainly emotionally. As many athletes do, take pride in your preparation and your focus and your contributions to the team, and I really felt I had let my teammates down, my city down. I had no great excuse or reason. It just was what it was, and a failure on my part for that play, and so it was very, very frustrating on many levels, and an educational moment for myself as well, because I had a choice now. Well, I could hang up the cleats and disappear into the shadows and live my life and go live in some obscure town and not talk about football and not be reminded of that. Or I could strap it up and go back to work and work harder and rededicate myself and with my preparation and my focus and my conditioning and the whole equation of better, I'm going to get better, and I'm not going to let this play define my career. And so that's what I did. I spent an off season of being kind of a how should I put it? I plan to spend an off season of not being a negative name, negative memory, a negative taste in people's mouths. The way that season ended, and I knew that was part of the gig, part of the game, part of the territory that we live in as a specialist in the NFL, and it ended up being a lot of motivation for me, and I think in the long run made me a stronger player mentally and a better prepared player for the next, whatever it was, 7 years of my career, which ended up being, or including a Pro Bowl and a ride with a Super Bowl winning team.
You were one of the guys on the roster when the New Orleans area went through Hurricane Katrina. What was that like for you on the player side of things?
Well, it was a mess on many levels. The NFL learned, unfortunately, a lot from that experience of what not to do when a team is displaced from their home city. Obviously, we as players, staff, employees of the Saints were very distraught at what happened to our city, our town. So much destruction, so much death, so many unnecessary tragedies that shoulda, coulda, woulda never happened had certain people made better decisions throughout the whole Katrina process. But we found ourselves relocated to San Antonio. The NFL did an extremely poor job of setting us up for success. We are basically set up for failure. We practiced at a high school field half the time. Our meeting rooms and locker rooms were changed over 3 times during the season, different locations. When we first got to San Antonio, we were in a hotel for 2 weeks, and then we were told that ride was over. We had to go find housing with no help or assistance from the NFL. The commissioner did not pay us a visit until week 14.
Wow.
And it was just very difficult to compete at a high level against your NFL peers as they came in to play us, or we went out to play them, when we were really running a Bush League operation with Bush League facilities and constantly having to adjust to new locations and new meeting rooms and new weight rooms, and we're in the Alamo Dome. Now we're out of the Alamo Dome. We're at LSU, but not really. So it's a mess. And when the commissioner finally did come in, he got the message that it was handled very poorly. And so if that ever happens to a team in the future, I think the NFL will handle it much better. But everybody learned something. The players learned something. Coaches, unfortunately, we had a very talented team, and a lot of those careers were changed after that year. Our coaching staff got fired. A lot of players' careers were changed because they didn't perform at the level that they would have liked to or should have. But again, we were at a disadvantage.
For sure.
So, and I don't hold the Saints responsible. I love the Saints. They were doing the best they could with what they were given. I think the league just really missed on staying up to date and on top of what our team was going through and what we needed to beat on a level playing field, and we didn't have that. We didn't have that opportunity that year.
From what I've read, the story basically goes when Olindo Mare showed up in New Orleans, John Carney asked to leave. Was there more to the story than that, or was it as simple as that?
Well, so that was really almost a year and a half later. So we came back to New Orleans in 2006, had a Cinderella season with Sean Payton, Reggie Bush, Drew Brees, Mickey Loomis, and Sean started a phenomenal relationship of managing and coaching a franchise that now is one of the top franchises in the league. And Mr. Benson was involved in very involved when those two took over the reins, and that trilogy of ownership with Mr. Benson, Mickey Loomis, the GM, and Sean Payton, that trilogy really worked extremely well. Obviously, the results were amazing, and much credit to them working on the same page for the common goal of success of a franchise and success of winning, making a winning environment. And so 2006, actually, statistically, it was a very, very good year for me. And I think I thought everybody was pretty pleased with my numbers. I don't know what they were, but it was something like 27 for 30 or something like that. So statistically, it went great. They just, at that time, somebody decided we could do better as far as younger and stronger, and Carney maybe at the end of his line here. So we got this guy, Olindo Mare, who's actually a friend of mine. I knew Olindo. I kicked with him in the off seasons. They decided to pick up his contract and bring him in. I actually received a phone call from Sean Payton. I think it was probably around March. And I love Sean. Sean's very good to me, but he just gave me a call. Hey, John, I'm glad I caught you. I just want to let you know we just traded for Olindo Mare. I was like, oh, that's great. So he said, you can stay and compete with him. You can go, you can retire, what's on your mind? And he said, don't tell me, call me tomorrow. So anyways, I called him the next day. I said, John, I like Olindo Mare. I think you have a really talented kicker that you're going to be bringing onto the team. I said, so I'm going to be replaced by somebody. I think you're getting the right guy. He's strong, he's talented, he's young. I think you're going to be really happy with Olindo Mare. And don't worry about me. I'll land on my feet and I'll keep going. So, best of luck this season. And I think both Sean and I have always kept our relationship very realistic and very honest. I think we both respect that from both sides. And in fact, we're really only a year apart in age, I think. So, Olindo came in, and I ended up playing for the Jaguars because their kicker got hurt early in the season. So I had played 10 games for the Jaguars in 2007, and ironically ended up playing against the Saints around week 5 or 6 at the Superdome, which was really bizarre. And if you really want to put a crazy twist to it, that game, which the Saints won, although we had a great team, the Jaguars had a great team that year, and we were really playing good ball, but we did lose that game against the Saints. That's when Olindo Mare kicked the onside kick that the Saints recovered, which became our ambush kick in 2009, because I remember seeing Olindo do that, and I taught myself the kick, and then I taught it to Morstead in 2009, which became our big Super Bowl onside kick in the 2009 Super Bowl season. So that whole thing has crazy crazy strings. And then I ended up finishing the season when Scobie got back healthy in Jacksonville. Kansas City called up and said, hey, finish the season for us. We're not happy with our guy. So I went up to Kansas City and finished the season for them. Next year with the Giants, ended up spending a whole year there and going to the Pro Bowl, which was a great experience with Jeff Fiegels, phenomenal punter, had been in the league for a long time, and playing for Tom Coughlin, and they just came off a Super Bowl run, and that was a great experience, and then ended up back with the Saints in 2009. So it all worked out, and unfortunately, Orlando didn't really get on track the way he would have liked to at the Saints, and ended up leaving after a year and going to Seattle. And I think the Saints went through a number of kickers after that until they found Garrett Hartley.
So eventually at 44 years old, you become the oldest player in league history to make a Pro Bowl. The longevity that you were able to enjoy in your career, is that something that is just part of your process and that's how you made it that far? Is it the training? Is it what went into the longevity that you had throughout your career?
Well, you mentioned work ethic, training smart, and continuing to adapt your training to your age. Your recovery time starts to become quite a bit longer as you get older, so factoring that into your training was really important. So you kind of learn through trial and error how to do that, and always finding ways to get better in the off season. Never stop learning. It's always ongoing skill and development. And so, working out with young guys, training with young guys, training with young superstar kickers that are coming into the league, learning what they're doing, and the good Lord keeping you healthy, and again having faith that there's a plan out there, and just keep pushing and keep following that plan and your path.
After speaking with Thomas Morstead, I understand how big of a role you played in Ambush during that Super Bowl in 2010. What was that like for you to finally get the ring after being so close in San Diego?
It was exciting and amazing to be a part of a Super Bowl season and to finish that game as the winner and as the championship team for that year in the NFL is very special. And anybody who ever puts on a helmet, somewhere in the back of their mind, that's a dream of theirs. And to be a part of that with so many great players, coaches, again, management, staff, the whole organization takes part and is responsible for a victory like that. You can't win a game. You can't have a championship season and win a game without everybody on board doing an amazing job. And just to be a part of that, to see that whole thing unfold, and to see all the variables that go into that, handled well, it's just remarkable and a blessing. Ironically, both my Super Bowls were in the same stadium. Both times I was in the same locker room, and both times we were on the same sideline. And both games started off poorly for the team I was on. So the Niners jumped out in front of us real quickly, and the Colts jumped out in front of us real quickly. And I remember saying to myself as this unfolded, I've seen this movie before, and it doesn't end well for us. But Drew Brees, Sean Payton, our coaching staff, our players, we had prepared amazingly well, and it was just a matter of time before we got on track and started making some of our own plays. And the preparation was, so in depth. Tracy Porter, the interception at the end of the game that drives the last nail into the coffin. He had intercepted that ball, I think, twice or maybe even 3 times during the week of practice. He knew the play, he knew the formation, and we just saw Tracy. I just was speaking with him at the Super Bowl reunion, and I asked him about that because I heard that from a quarterback, Mark Brunell, who I think threw the interception because he was running the scout team during the week when they were running the Colts offense, and I asked Tracy about it. He goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I was watching for that the whole game, and I knew as soon as they lined up in that what was coming." And he jumped the route, pick, interception, pick 6, game over. And that's the kind of preparation our coaching staff and players had prepared and taken care of business. It was just great to be a part of that and watch that whole thing unfold.
I've read into a little of how it organically started with the Carney coaching. I followed along, obviously, on social media and kind of seen how you've taken so many of these specialists under your wings and coached them up and seen them through into the NFL. What motivated that whole thing to start and continue?
Well, when I started playing in New Orleans and then spending my off seasons in San Diego, I started building a gym in my garage for training, for effective and efficient training in the off season when I was here in San Diego. And then guys started joining me. So after the 2006 season, my good friend Steve Weatherford, who enjoyed a great 10-year career as a punter and picked up his Super Bowl with the New York Giants, Steve decided he wanted to come start training with me in the off season. And then other guys like Nick Folk started training with us, and Nick Novak started training with us. And then there was a strike or the lockout around 2009 or 10, and other guys needed a spot to train, and so we collected a few more specialists in the off season. Josh Brown being another one, and so all of a sudden we had these guys training in my garage and running and kicking with us in San Diego. So when I started to slide into retirement, I moved everything out to save my wife the hassle and family the hassle, and moved it into basically a warehouse, and started Carney Training Facility, and wanted to open up our coaching and our teaching and our mentoring to high school kids, college kids, and NFL free agents. And so that's what we do.
Last one for you, John. I wanted to talk a little bit about the psychology of kicking, I guess for punting too, but that whole mindset of being able to just hit that reset button every time you get on the field, and whether you succeed or fail in a specific attempt, your mental as far as just hitting that reset button and going into a clear, going into the next play with a clear head. Do you think that is something that guys are generally born with? Or is that something that's kind of taught and a learned process over the years?
I believe that it can be taught, and I believe some guys are born with it. It's just inherent in their DNA. Some guys are just born clutch. They just never seem to get nervous. They love the spotlight, and they have the uncanny ability to lock in their focus when they have to. That's not me. So I learned through a process of elimination and trial and error what works and what doesn't work, and a system and routine that I would commit myself to that would help me lock in when I needed to lock in and be focused and be on my game.
Another Saints legend in the books. Thank you so much, John Carney, for your time, and thank you all for sticking it out. Whodat, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.